Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, we made a road trip up here to Baltimore, and we're sitting in the office of Alex Smith, who's the CEO of the Atlas Restaurant Group. Thank you very much for inviting me up here, and I can't wait to learn a little bit more about Atlas and everything else. And I was on your website, and it's atlasrestaurantgroup.com, and I think I counted 51. Is that correct about that?
Yeah, it's ever changing. It's ever changing. And so it's 51, and we call them properties because not all of them are truly restaurants.
Okay.
We've got some, cocktail bars. We've got some, we have a deli. We have all sorts of different concepts in the food and beverage space. So full service restaurants is a little less than 51.
And you're in 5 states.
We are in 5 states.
Which is crazy. You're sort of like the Fancy Mission Barbecue. When they started up here in Glen Burnie, and then now they're down in North Carolina. And
yeah.
It's like...
We're in 5 states, but out of the 51, we really only have 4 out of the Mid-Atlantic, and we have 3 in Houston, and we have 1 in South Florida and Boca Raton. But most of our stuff is between Delaware, Philly, Maryland, so it's really all tied together.
And a good portion of it's within walking distance of where we are.
Correct. Yeah, right in here in Harbor East.
Talk about your roots. How did Atlas Restaurant Group all start? And I guess what's the origin of the word Atlas?
Yeah, so we started right after I graduated college. I wanted to start my own small business, and so I started with an ice cream.
Well, that didn't work out too well.
Yeah. I started with a Haagen-Dazs ice cream store, which is actually right still here in Harbor East. I've owned it since 2007.
Oh, wow.
And I was playing lacrosse at the time, and my senior year, I played in the Final Four, Delaware Hopkins, and I lost that game to Hopkins and walked right off the field, and then the next day started serving ice cream. Literally opened that summer the Haagen-Dazs franchise, and it was a great experience. Learned how to run my own small business, manage my own payroll, hiring, firing, learned what inventory was and the process of that. And I was a workaholic, just like I am now. And so I locked the store every night and I opened it every morning. And so for the first about year or two, that's what I did. And then I wanted to evolve from there. And after that, opened a small deli, Harbor East Deli, and that was in 2009, I believe. And did pizzas, sandwiches, salads, soups, small beverage inventory. Learned how to run my own small business, and that was the next step because we went from ice cream to a hot kitchen. But I was in there ringing up customers every day, making cheesesteaks and pizza, and open to close. And I had the ice cream store and the deli going, and I had about 30 employees. And so I did that for a number of years and was ready to really get into more of a fine dining atmosphere. I realized there was a lot more money in the bar business, selling beer, wine, and liquor.
Sure.
And so I wanted a place that was kind of a happening spot and somewhere where there was some energy and I could get in the bar business. And I have Greek roots. My grandfather was Greek. And so my first fine dining restaurant was Ouzo Bay, which opened in 2012.
Wow.
So
okay.
for the first 4 years, from 2007, 5 years, from 2007 till August of 2012, I just had the Haagen-Dazs and the deli. And creating a fine dining restaurant, Ouzo Bay was a dream for me. And I opened that in August of 2012.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, there's also quite a difference between opening up an ice cream store and a deli store, and while you get the revenue coming from the beer, wine, and liquor, it's also a lot to get into it as well.
It was, yeah. And so, how did I get there, and what was that step?
Well, I mean, how do we get to 50?
Yeah, so
wouldn't you be happy with 1 in the deli and an ice cream store?
Well, I mean, so when you talk about 50, you got to look at how did we get there, and a lot of it was, let's talk about Ouzo Bay. I mean, after Ouzo Bay, I didn't open another store until 2015. So really, from 2007 to 2015, which was just 10 years ago, we only ever had 3 units. I had the deli and the Haagen-Dazs and Ouzo Bay. So really in 10 years, how do you go from 3 to 51?
Right.
And there's an answer to that. And so I'll give you, for instance, in Baltimore particularly, there's a lot of stores that were second generation that had failed in the city. And I'll just, my next door was Four Seasons, and we had an operator in Four Seasons, Michael Mina, who was running the hotel, and he was running the outlets in the hotel at a cash flow negative. And the hotel decided that they didn't want to have a managed celebrity chef anymore. They just wanted to lease those spaces out. And we came in and retroed them, and we leased them. And that ended up being what is now 4 restaurant outlets. Very similarly, there was Fleet Street Kitchen and 1010 and Bagby Pizza, which was across the street. And that was operating at a negative cash flow, and they closed all those outlets. And 6 months later, we came in and we retroed them and invested in them and changed them over. And that was 4 restaurants. And that turned out to be Elk Room and Tagliata and Monarch and Italian Disco. And so really, when you look at that, those were people that had invested capital in these restaurants. They weren't cash flow positive. And with a little bit of capital, we came in and retrofitted them into what is now an additional 8 restaurants that we own and operate in Harbor East. So we have done a very good job, and this has continued on, but we've done a very good job of trying to repurpose old second generation restaurants, which have not been able to survive for whatever reason, and come in and invest capital into them with our concepts and the thought method on how we operate, and turn them around. And that's how we've been able to grow like we have over the last decade.
Well, I know about 2 years ago now, I guess close to about 2 years ago, you invaded Annapolis in the Choptank. You took over the old Faucets building, which was retrofitted there. And I know that was a long time coming to get something in there. And that's been certainly a welcome addition to Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough parking, but that's my own.
Yeah, well, parking's a problem everywhere in Annapolis.
I mean, the Choptank has been just a really big hit for Annapolis. I mean, has it been as well for you?
Yeah, it's our top grossing restaurant, and it's done quite well. That's a space, believe it or not, that I looked at in 2016, right after I had opened up the hotel properties. Mike Keenan had reached out to me, who's my landlord, and him and John Bruno, great people, great landlords. I wasn't ready at that time to take such a big jump because, it's a prime corner, very high in rent, personal guarantees and all this. And I just was too small of a business owner to take a chance like that. Most people probably know that Phillips had signed a lease there. And Phillips was going in there. And then during the pandemic, he made the determination that he didn't want to further get into the restaurant business. And we came in and ended up taking the space, which turned out to be great for us. And, John and Mike have been great landlords, and we're really happy to be down there.
I'll tell you, you've got one of 3 rooftop where you can dine and drink in Annapolis, between Metropolitan, Blackwall Hitch, and certainly the Choptank with the best view right on the water. You can't beat that. Then you've come into the Annapolis Waterfront Hotel, which is a Marriott property, I believe, right?
It's a Marriott hotel, but it's owned by was Hersha Hospitality, which is now
they're out of Philly, right, Pennsylvania,
which was bought by KSL, and they're a $20 billion private equity firm that owns hospitality assets.
Okay,
so that's who the landlord is now, is KSL.
Okay.
Hersha, they're great people.
It's funny you said that Choptank is your best grossing.
Yeah.
I used to own several travel agencies that were Carlson Wagonlit, which also owned TGI Fridays.
Okay.
And the TGI Fridays in the Harbor Center was the highest grossing TGI Fridays in the entire
in Baltimore Harbor.
No, the Annapolis Harbor Center.
Annapolis Harbor Center.
And they refused to sell it out to a franchise. They kept that one corporate. It was sort of strange that two. I mean, and they said that Harbor Center, I've heard, as far as retail goes, aside from the dollars per square foot, aside from like the Court at King of Prussia and the Mall at King of Prussia in Pennsylvania, it's the highest grossing.
Really?
Yeah,
I had no idea. That's great.
Yeah, kind of interesting. But so back here at the Waterfront Hotel, okay, so Pusser's lease had expired and they didn't.
Well, Pusser's lease, I think Pusser's had an opportunity to renew. Is my understanding they had an opportunity to renew, but didn't want to make a reinvestment in the space, which the hotel was looking for a reinvestment in that space because they just redid the rooms. They just redid the banquet space.
It was tired
a few years back, and it was tired, and it just needed investment. But I think that the ownership group was a little older and decided that they didn't want to reinvest in the space and continue on. And so they ended up leasing the space to us, and we looked at the space and said, man, this is an opportunity to do something really profound. in that there's a lot of leasable space that they have that was not in use. And what I mean by that is most people don't realize there used to be a pool on the second floor up there, which was used. And then there's a lot of garage space that was behind Pussers. And we thought, wow, this space is really big enough to do 2 full service restaurants. And from a price point perspective, what can we do to create 2 separate concepts on 2 very different price points? Even different from Choptank. And so, our Choptank is, let's say, $50, $60 a person. And what we were looking to do was to do a fine dining or more upscale Italian restaurant that maybe is $70 or $80 per person average, and also do a, Mexican cantina, like
put your boat up and
just like have a tequila that is maybe $20, $30 a person. So the goal was to create 3 brands, including the Choptank Annapolis, with 3 different price points, with 3 completely different cuisines that would all tie together and create kind of a culinary and entertainment destination. So at Marmo, which is very much like Tagliata, which is here in Baltimore, we're doing hand-cut pastas, we're doing steaks, we'll have a prolific wine list, and then we're doing piano as live music. So we'll have a really cool piano bar in there.
Awesome.
Next door, which is going to be a higher price point, next door, you're going to have this Tex-Mex tequila bar, El Camino, Rocco's Tacos feeling, really cool live music, dockside, pull up your boat, walk in flip-flops, be able to do tacos, tequila, and all sorts of Mexican cuisine. And then you have Choptank next door, which is kind of like middle of the road, which is more of, American seafood and oyster bar.
Sure.
And so you have 3 different cuisines, you'll have 3 different types of entertainment, you'll have 3 different types of really pushes on beverage in that experience, and also culinary wise, that experience. And then you have the banquet upstairs, which will anchor the whole thing and provide traffic to the 3 restaurants.
That's awesome. Well, it's got to be a boon to the Annapolis Waterfront Hotel to be able to have, Pussers is what, as much as it was loved or hated or whatever it is, it was pub food.
Yeah.
And this now gives their guests something, a lot of choices.
Of course.
That are staying there.
It'll be wonderful. You'll still be able to pull your boat up. You'll still be able to get a painkiller. You'll still be able to do the things that every Pussers guest that loves Pussers asked me for. I love Pussers, and I went there for many years. I'm not sure but I did played for the Bayhawks for 4 years. And our post-game party for the team was at Pussers. It was at Pussers and Acme. And so I spent quite a bit of nights at Pussers and had a blast there. It's a great restaurant. We're really happy to be involved in improving the space. And I think that the neighborhood and the city and the hotel guests will be really happy with the capital improvements.
Are you just using the existing space and converting it, or there's actually going to be new construction?
There's new construction there as well on the second floor. And we've expanded the first floor space. It'll be really interesting for the guests to see when it opens, because it's going to feel like 2 big restaurants. It's 2 300-seat restaurants indoor and out. And you're probably like, where is that space? And you'll see it when it's there, but it's not going to look anything like what was there. We took everything out and started over. Yeah.
What's your time frame on that?
We will open end of summer, fall.
Now keeping in mind this is Annapolis. And
yeah. We will open end of summer, fall.
And we're 25?
Of 25.
Okay.
And we're under full construction. They're chiseling away in there and hammering away and doing their thing. So we're fully permitted. Everything is moving. All of our FF&E has been ordered. We were hoping to catch the middle of the summer or the beginning of the summer. That's probably unlikely. I think it's end of the summer, early fall.
Okay. Sliding down the block a little bit, you, after Mission Barbecue closed and left about a year vacant, everyone's going, what's going in there? What's going in there? And all of a sudden, we hear that the Admiral's Cup from Atlas will be coming in there.
So we didn't, that was a space that we really didn't seek out. The Stevens family called us and said they were looking to lease it. They had potentially a lease with a local convenience store or something of that nature. And I don't want to name names of who they were talking to, but we went and looked at the space and we just thought, man, this is such a cool, iconic building. And you're right next to Middleton's Tavern, you're next to McGarvey's, you're next to Dock Street, like you're right in that pub area there. And Admiral's Cup is one of the oldest bars in Fells Point. The Admiral's Cup was owned by a relative of the Guggenheims, and the Admiral's Cup was the name of the horse that raced in Preakness. And so that's been a bar in Fells Point. It's been there for 200 years, that building, but the actual bar at the Admiral's Cup has been there, I think, since 81, right, Aaron? So almost 50 years. And it is the busiest place in Fells Point as far as a iconic bar. And we just thought, well, the Admiral's Cup, like a block from the Naval Academy, like in an old historic building. And by the way, the Admiral's Cup in Baltimore is 6,000 feet. The Admiral's Cup in Stevens Hardware Building will be 6,000 feet. So they're the same size.
Okay.
And we just thought to bring like an iconic, cool pub to that space that has such ties to the maritime history in Baltimore and also now Annapolis with the Naval Academy, we just thought would be incredible. So that's why we did it. Yeah.
That makes sense. What's your timeline on that one? Do you have any idea?
That'll be open summer.
This summer?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, big question I've been asked a lot of times is they better not screw with the Stevens sign on the front of the building.
Yeah.
Is that going to stay?
Well, I don't think we're allowed to touch it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the sign is, whether it was by my choice or not, I think it's part of the historic facade of the building. So the Stevens sign will stay on the side of the building.
But there's shingle hung out front with the Admiral's Cup for sure.
Yeah, there will be signage for the Admiral's Cup out there somewhere, and we will clean up the building and do a whole bunch of stuff to make it look and feel different.
Right.
But the Stevens Hardware name will stay.
Awesome. Any other local or regional expansions that are on your radar at this point?
Yes, none that I can really talk about. Right.
You told me you were an open book, man.
Yeah. Well, we're doing some things in Delaware. We're doing some more things in Philly. We're doing some things in the DC, Maryland area, around that area. And then, locally here, we've got a high-end Chinese restaurant, Nine-Tailed Fox, which will open in May. And then we're doing a new corporate office, which is right down the street. And we've got a couple concepts going in that. So that's pretty much our 2025 is.
Do you sleep?
I've got 3 kids under the age of 4, and all boys. And so, no, I don't sleep, but mainly because of them, not because of the restaurant business. So,
one thing that I was totally impressed with, and this is before you came into Annapolis, HACA, which is our housing authority for the community of Annapolis. Personal opinion, horribly mismanaged. It's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Going into summer, they couldn't open the pools for the kids. And I mean, the kids need something to do or they're going to get in trouble. And you guys, before you even, I don't know whether you were under construction, but certainly before you opened, you came in and made a donation. I think it was $10,000 or maybe even $20,000 to get those pools open.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just like, there's somebody that's invested in the community.
Yeah.
10-year-olds and 12-year-olds that are living in public housing are not coming to the Choptank to eat.
No.
But that really said to me that Alex Smith at Atlas Restaurant Group believes in the community. And then we turned around again and, we partnered with Jared Libman, which was with KB True Value. Now it's KMB Ace Hardware, but they do the Cash for Schools program where you can donate money and there's matching. So we've done that. And you guys jumped in on that again this year. And I mean, there was another $30,000 that was donated to the local schools. And it really does scream that, I mean, yes, you are headquartered here, but you are involved in the communities where you are.
I can't stress enough that I don't feel like there's much division for me, that is, from Annapolis and Baltimore. I mean, it's a half an hour drive from this office to the restaurants in Annapolis. And, I look at it as we're Marylanders. A lot of my best friends I played lacrosse with, Severna Park, St. Mary's, Severn.
Sure.
And still live down there. A lot of my best friends from Baltimore moved down there and vice versa. We have Annapolis people that have moved up here. And so it's like, it's a brother-sister relationship, and we do a ton for the community in Baltimore. And we're involved in everything, and many different levels, whether it's hospitals or community programs or all sorts of things. And so, for me, I told our team that it was super important that we have that same level of not only just dollar amount charitable giving, but investment in the community with time as well. And so, I think we've gone to 30 organizations over the last 2 years in Annapolis, over 125,000.
Wow.
And we have right now one restaurant. So
Right,
think about
right,
that.
yeah.
Like, we're not a restaurant group in Annapolis. We have a single property
One.
there. And so, our goal is to expand that number both monetarily and with time from our employees and with organizations in the community as we continue to grow. But I think it's important that when you represent a restaurant, you're not just talking about the food and the beverage, you represent the customer base and you represent the staff. And for our staff and our customers to know that we're ingrained in the community and we're helping out when needed is important to us.
Well, I know you've been involved in a number. I know Historic Annapolis.
Yeah.
You jumped in there. I know you were at although I'm not allowed to go, the Peka Girlfriends party. You were out there. And I know you're going to have the Oyster Bar at the Bands in the Sand,
Yeah.
which is going to be on the 14th of June, I think.
Well, I'll tell you, Dick, Franyo is just first class. And he's just an incredible dude. He runs a great business. The Boatyard is a fantastic business. And he was one that called me and was like, Alex, I know you. He knew some of my relatives and friends from Baltimore. And he's like, I need you to step up. I need you to be the title sponsor for this. And I was like, Dick, I will do it. And so the last 2 years we've been their big sponsor for Bands in the Sands. And it's an awesome event.
It really is.
It's
And this
awesome
year,
event.
Sister Hazel's going to be headlining.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're announcing it tomorrow. It's okay.
Oh, yeah, you better block that out of the interview. But it's an awesome event at an incredible venue with great people, and we're honored to be part of that.
Well, I'll tell you, as we, start to wrap up, I mean, I just got a bunch of sort of fun things, but I mean, how did you you said you were a Lax Pro.
Yeah.
Okay. How did we decide to get into hospitality? I mean, okay, fine. You bought the ice cream shop, but I mean, when did that hospitality bug really take root?
I'll tell you a funny story. I was in college, and
in Delaware, right?
In Delaware.
Okay.
And I was working Hotbeds, which is the camp there. And if any of the coaches or anybody's listening to this, they'll think it's hilarious because they probably heard the story. But, the cafeteria closes at 6:00 at Delaware on Friday and Saturday at Hotbeds. And so I said to my coach, have you heard the story, Aaron? So I said to my coach, I said, do me a favor. I said, would it be, these kids are hungry. Can I sell them pizzas? Would you mind if I sell them pizzas? And my coach is like, no, go ahead. So I had there's this place on campus called Pizza U, and you could buy $5 18-inch pizzas at Pizza U, which I don't know how they made money, but this is 2005. And I filled up my Suburban with, hundreds of pizzas because I was taking laps, and I was selling them to the campers for $20. And I was hustling. I sold over 1,000 pizzas in 2 days. I made 15,000, and I tipped the guys out and stuff. I probably made 10, 12 grand, and they were only paying me $400 to be a counselor. And I remember going down, and coach looked at me and he goes, you sold how many pizzas? I said, I sold these. He goes, next year I'm doing the pizzas. So he cut me out. But he looked at me and he's like, this kid, I paid him $400. He made 10, 12 grand selling pizzas to the kids at Hotbeds. And so that was when I was like, I can make money selling food. This is great. This is, I was just an entrepreneur. And that was the first time I sold any food, was in college. And I sold 1,000 pizzas to hungry kids at Hotbeds.
At $20 a pop.
At $20 a pop, buying them for $5. Yeah.
Moral of the story is that college kids can be desperate at times.
The moral of the story is high school kids are hungry and their parents give them tons of money to buy pizza. So, so I got cut out the next year. I still worked camp, but I got cut out. But that's when I kind of got a bug to like, man, like I knew Harbor East was being developed. I was like, I should open an ice cream shop. And I was like, I want to sell ice cream. And then it just took off from there.
With all of your restaurants, all 51 locations or places or something like that, is there any one that just holds a special place in your? I'm not going to ask you which is your favorite because that's sort of
a lot of people have asked me that, and the truth is that I really am involved in the branding and the conceptualization and the creation of the concepts. And we have a really talented team. Brian McCormick, our CEO, he really runs the company. He's done a great job. He runs the operations. And my brother, who's my business partner, helps with real estate and the construction and the building of these things. But I will tell you that, like, when it comes to the branding and the feel, Patrick Sutton, who's our designer, and myself, like that was like what we're really into. And I could tell you, the truthful answer is I like them all for different reasons. Because all the ones we design, we cultivate to feel a certain way when you walk in and have this certain type of experience. And with each one, it's different, unless we're replicating a brand. And so for all different reasons, I enjoy each one for for specific type of feel that we've created.
Okay. And
Maybe that's a cop out answer, but
it might be. I'll let it slide. I'll
truth.
let it slide. It could be. It could be. But
Yeah.
and I do admire your management style. I mean, you mentioned that you were a small business, a lot bigger than I am. I'm a one person kind of a guy,
Mhm.
but it's you look at Cunningham's, which I can't remember what it was called before it was Cunningham's, millennial, perennial.
Yeah, it's perennial. It was after Cunningham's.
Okay, but because I took my son there for
Yeah.
one of his birthdays and got lost in the elevators in that building, and
That's probably why that location didn't work.
but it was, but you guys came in, and when it wasn't working, you changed it all up, didn't you?
We did.
I
We
mean-
changed it all up. It still wasn't working. We ended up shutting that location down. Look, Cunningham's was a good business. We tried to kind of relaunch it, and it still hasn't done what it needed to do. Now the cafe is still open, but the restaurant, the second floor location there is difficult. Yeah.
Well, my thought was that here you guys came in, you tried it.
Yep.
Didn't work. Changed it up
Worked for a while.
and got rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you realize that, I mean, I don't think that you're having any shareholder meetings to figure out to change your lettuce supplier.
Right. No,
and it's
no, it's a
where
good.
you can be nimble and do things like that.
I mean, I would tell you that, we're not in the business of operating restaurants that lose money. And our philosophy as a company has always been three things. First off is integrity of product. Put the best quality product out on the table that you possibly can, because guests understand quality and they're willing to pay for quality. But if you put out just an okay product and you try and just pass it by, long term, you're not going to be there. And I'll just give you an example. There's these restaurants that you know about in Annapolis or wherever it is, and they don't have the prettiest building or the best customer service, and I can name them names, but there's lines down the block.
Right.
Because people are coming to eat that specific product that somebody put so much time and effort into. And so integrity of product is number one. Hospitality is number two. Because even if, you have a bad experience, it can be turned around with somebody that, how's your day? And is there anything I can do for you? And a smile on your face and a shake of the hand and somebody going above and beyond. And then the third is entertainment. And when I say entertainment, I'm not just talking about like music. I'm talking about the experience. When you walk in, what does it feel like? What is the lighting like? Is the chair you're sitting in comfortable? How close are you to the next guest? Do you have space? Like, what is the feel when you walk in? And so it's like, if you do those things right, those three things, and I tell all young operators this, like, if you put out a great product that you put your heart and soul into, and you're at the front door and you're willing to make a guest smile, shake their hand, and not only that, you provide an experience for them when they walk in, it's very difficult to fail in the restaurant business. But you have to focus on those three things.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes here. And you mentioned that you just have a brand new Chinese restaurant. And I mean, you've got American, Japanese, seafood, Chinese, French, Irish, Italian, Latin. I mean, how do you you hear these restaurant groups, a lot of them, they have a good idea. They figure out, the service, the experience and the food, and they replicate it. But you're all over the map as far as that goes. I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah. So part of it is just really finding talent. And, obviously, look, I don't know anything about Chinese food, right? I'll be the first to tell you. Do I know that it's a need in this market? Yes. Having a high-end Chinese restaurant is a need in this market. So first, if you look at Baltimore and what we've done here and created here, what is the need, right? And if you look at high-end Chinese, there is no high-end Chinese in this market. Okay, well, how are we going to build that? All right, well, let's build a standalone building. Let's make it look very Chinese, very Asian, and create a style around that. But more importantly, let's go recruit talent. So we find this Chinese chef who ran the top Chinese restaurant in Houston. And before that, he was culinary director for Hakkasan. So this is an international Chinese restaurant group that really puts an emphasis on quality of food and product. Let's go hire that guy. It's going to cost a lot of money, but guess what? We need the best person to run the operation and to train and to grow the business and the brand. So we went and found that person, Jeffrey. He's unbelievable. And does he speak English? No. So now we have to go and commit to a translator to help us and him communicate with us so we can figure this out, right? So we did. Dim sum, right? Like, what is our dumpling program? We went and found somebody that was one of the best people to make dim sum in the country. Recruited that person and their family to come here. to make dumplings at this restaurant. So it starts with talent. You have to go out and recruit talent and then design around and build around this person's menu and what the experience is going to be like.
Well, I want to talk, you've been talking about it starts with the talent. Like, go back, and I hate to bring it up again, but COVID, when it came through. And I remember you had said one thing that, you wanted to make sure that your key people, the talent, if you will, was safe through COVID when you shut down a restaurant. And I think you said there was a quote in the Business Journal or something that it's, it shut down. It's $30,000 just to shut it down and start it up again.
Yeah. So what we did during COVID is we paid all of our salaried people through COVID. We paid for their health insurance, we paid for their salaries, and we took care of all of our people that are salaried through COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Then what we did was we have 3,000 total employees. We took the time to spend to get all of our hourlies on unemployment in the queue as fast as possible, because we knew that the unemployment was going to come from the federal government and the state. But the problem wasn't necessarily that they couldn't get it. The problem was getting people in the queue to get past the red tape,
right,
to get organized to do it. So we refocused day one when we realized we were closing, was to get all of our salaried people to figure out how to get the hourly people in the queue. And then we immediately mobilized to get groceries and other products for them so that we could keep them and help them through the
hardship,
through the 6-week shutdown. And so for us, it just financially was unsustainable to take care of everybody. It's just not possible. I mean, our payroll is just simply too high. We would have been bankrupt. But we had to take care of, for sure, our salary people, because they were the ones that were the liaisons to the hourlies to make sure that we were taking care of the hourly people and moving.
And your people coming in, your customers coming in too. I mean, you don't want to have...
Well, we didn't have any customers.
Well, no, I know during COVID, but when you do reopen, I mean, you don't want to have to start from scratch again, training.
Correct. You have to have a team
to hit the ground running.
And open back up. And so our goal was always to open up as soon as we could, as safely as possible, but also to help as many hourly people as we could during the shutdown. And I think we achieved that. We did a great job with that.
Challenging time for sure.
Horrible time for restaurants.
Yeah. No kidding. Where do you see Atlas in 5, 10, or maybe even 25 years from now?
Yeah. So who knows? But I would tell you that, we're not building something to sell it. This is a family-owned business. We look at ourselves as a generational business. And so long-term, what I hope to do is to leave this company with hopefully no debt to my kids and Eric's kids and any of our business partners that are now partners in the business. And we've got a few operators that are partners with us in this business. And I hope that they can leave it to their families and the next generation can run it. That's my long-term goal. Short-term, I see us growing organically. I mean, we're going to reinvest the cash flow from the businesses into new opportunities. We're going to expand regionally. And then when there's a strategic acquisition that we feel like we could buy a brand that will have value, we think we could bring value to, that would fit well into our community, that we would look at that.
We did that in Delaware with Big Fish.
We did. Right? Yeah, we did that in Big Fish. Big Fish was a great opportunity for us. Their owner and I got to be very good friends, and he was a guy that was just like, hey, I'm ready to retire from the restaurant business. And it was a great opportunity for us, seafood driven, which we have a lot of seafood driven concepts. And also we felt like we could add some things to what they were doing and help kind of grow their business. And we've done that, and we're really happy with that. It's gone really well.
As a Maryland kid, what's your favorite non-Atlas restaurant that you like?
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay. Not favorite,
And it doesn't have to be fancy.
Can I give you a couple?
It could be the hot dog. Sure.
Can I give you a couple?
Cart on the corner.
I'll give you a couple. So I will tell you that. All right, let me just go through it. For Italian, love Vito's in Hunt Valley. Those people are great. They do a great job. For American, Michael's Cafe. You've been to Michael's Cafe?
Mm-mm.
They do a wonderful job. Jimmy's Seafood for crabs on Hollywood Avenue. John and Tony are friends. They're awesome dudes. Breakfast, Miss Shirley's. Dobkin family, great people. I love Miss Shirley's. Great place.
See, no, I don't like Miss Shirley's. I'm a purist when it comes to brunch and breakfast.
Where do you go for breakfast in Annapolis?
I'll go to Main and Market, which is Main Ingredient, which is Fed House people own that too. Maggiano's of all things had a good brunch at one point.
Really?
They don't do it anymore. But they don't do that. But Main and Market is one of the places that I go to. And
I'll tell you, in Annapolis, I love Lunas. I think it's just a cute little steakhouse. Those guys do a great job. And Boatyard. I mean, I had lunch at Boatyard the other day, and I think Boatyard's a wonderful place, and it's truly an Annapolis stronghold, and I think Dick is first class.
he really is. I mean, he came in there.
He's fantastic.
And he took over Marmaduke's.
Yeah.
And just built it up as a second career. He's been just wonderful to the community, whether it's the Maritime Museum and the CBF.
And what I love about Dick is he's a guy that's been successful his entire life. He doesn't need to be a restaurateur, waiting to, helping out on tables and cleaning. And
he made it all on Wall Street. And
he's Alex Brown founder basically. And he's just he's a great guy. And he you know what? I will say this, and not to name names, but there's restaurant owners and operators in Annapolis who have never ever reached out or tried to make contact or look at us like the enemy. And there's guys all vice versa that have called, that I've interacted with, that I've had lunch with, that are great guys. And I just want to put it out there on this podcast that we are those types of people. And what I mean by we are those types of people, we are like Dick. Dick reached out to me the day I came in the community and said, if you need anything, call me. If I can help with anything, let me know. Like, we're so excited that you're, and we're a competitor of his, and we're so excited you're here. And oh, by the way, I need you to support this because it's important to me. And I said, yes. Right. And there's been others that are out there that I've chatted with. And I can just tell you that if there's anybody in the community that would love just to chat about the business, talk about, what we can do together. And I'll give you an example. Who's like that in Delaware is Scott from Sodell Group. I mean, he and I have had dinner a couple times. We bought Big Fish. We're his biggest competitor. He called me, let's get dinner and, let's get our wives together. And you go out with these people. And it's nice to have restaurant operators that all stick together and bounce ideas off of each other and talk about how we can all thrive together. And so I just want to put this out there that if anybody wants to meet in Annapolis and shoot the shit and have lunch, I'm happy to do it.
Sure. Frenemies are fine.
Yeah.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, type of a thing. But again, I mean, you're not, yes, you do compete with some people. And I mean, I've people, say that I compete with the Capitol and stuff like that. I mean, there's overlap. I mean, for sure, but it's a totally different type of a thing. And,
I truly believe that rising tide raises all ships.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
especially in Annapolis.
I work with Annapolis high school kids a lot. And I'm on their ICST board. And one thing I said, never be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
I said, and they're so paranoid to do that. I'm like, there are so few people in this world that will look you in the face and say, I don't want to help you.
Yeah.
They may say, I can't help you right now, or maybe I'm not qualified to help you. But you know what? I mean, some kid may ask me, say, I really want to open my own restaurant. Okay. I don't know squat about opening up a restaurant. I said, but you know what? I got this guy's card the other day up in Baltimore.
Yeah, and I'm happy to meet with him.
He knows what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the kids don't get. And I mean, I think that as everybody should work together.
But you have to have you have to be humble and have the ability to go out and ask. And I will tell you that, when I have an operator like Dick call me before I even get to the market and say, if I can help you, and just has always been so genuine, like I would do anything for that guy. And, I don't probably know him as well as you, but I could just tell you, the type of person he is. And that's probably why he has the business he has, because, if he called me and said, hey, I'm out of chicken, or I'm out of this, or I'm out of whatever it is, like I'd figure out a way to help him out.
There's a busboy running from the kitchen over.
I'll figure out how to help him out that minute. Like, let's go help. And so that, look, I understand that, Annapolis is a tight knit community and we want to be a part of it. And more importantly, we want to continue to build relationships down there. It's a wonderful town.
Alex, what's your go-to when you go to the Choptank in Annapolis?
Ooh,
what's your food?
Honestly, I either get our crab cakes or I just get a simply grilled piece of fish. So grilled piece of tuna, and go with that. And usually I'll have an orange crush. So we have a family farm down on the Eastern Shore, so I occasionally pull the boat up, which is a lot of fun as well.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Neat. Well, I'll tell you, as we start to wrap it up, I mean, I imagine that with 50 restaurants or 50 locations, you're always looking for help. Is the best place for somebody that may be looking for employment to go to atlasrestaurantgroup.com?
Absolutely, yeah. We have multiple areas on there where you can look at jobs that we have open and apply.
Okay, and that's in the restaurants and all over the different places as well.
And not only that, I'll be honest, LinkedIn me. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up, send me your resume. If you're a server, if you're a bartender, if you're a manager and you're looking, I mean, I get requests all the time, whether it's Instagram, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook. People email me directly. And one of the things I do want to say is that we are, even though we're a bigger company, I meet with guests, I meet with servers, I meet with bartenders. Like, we have an open door policy. We're super accessible. And so anybody can reach out to me anytime they'd like.
I will confirm that because I threw out on Twitter. I said, "Hey, how about a podcast?" He said, "Sure, here, call me." it was like, okay. 2 weeks later, here we are. We're sitting up here in Baltimore. But I do encourage everybody to go to atlasrestaurantgroup.com. Check out all their different brands. I mean, I rattled off the different cuisines that they have, but they've a ton of different brands all around the region. If you're in Houston or Boca Raton or Philadelphia, you've got some options there. You do have an app, which is pretty cool. So you can earn points, which ultimately equal dollars or discounts, and make reservations and all that stuff too. But you do want to check that out. If you haven't been to the Choptank, go for the food, stay for the view, or maybe go for the view and stay for the food, whatever way. But most beautiful, stunning location in Annapolis. We've got 3 more coming on board.
Yeah.
In the next,
we have a busy
next year,
busy 6-7 months. And John, thank you very much for.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Alex.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.